Bloodborne released a few months ago now. I believe it was in March, and I've been holding off on doing a video for a few months because if I had released a knee-jerk reaction video right around the time all the professional reviews were coming out, I would be, in fact, no better than they were. I have a personal pet peeve for reviews that come out right on the same day as launch and really do not accurately reflect what the contents of the game were or how it all gelled in the player's mind. It's taken me a few months to really simmer on Bloodborne and see how everything fit together in my mind, where it fit within the rest of the Souls series, because this is very much a Souls game, even though it is not called Souls. So, if I had to rank it amongst the other Souls games that I've played, I'd say it's probably number 2. The first one being Demon Souls. It's very hard to beat the first game that you play in a series. And not only that, amongst other things, I like the fact that Demon Souls has a consistent hub area and lore that's easier to follow than Dark Souls. Dark Souls is now my 3rd favorite. Now, another thing that prompted this review at this time was the announcement of the Old Hunters, which is a new expansion pack for Bloodborne. Looks like it's going to be more of the same, but more of the same is not necessarily a bad thing in this case, because I very much love what was in Bloodborne as a whole. The gameplay, like I said, it is reminiscent of a Souls game. If you played a Souls game before, you're going to feel right at home here. Few minor differences that, when put together, really make it feel unique, but not so unique that it feels out of place or it feels alien to you. I played a lot of Souls games, but this one feels very different in a lot of little ways, adding up to be a very unique package. One thing is that fully consumable health regaining items have returned now. They were gone from Dark Souls. Dark Souls got rid of the healing herb type items from Demon Souls in favor of Estus, which recharged every time you stopped at a bonfire. In Bloodborne, it has been replaced by blood vials. These are a consumable item that do not replenish every time you return to a hub area. The fact that these health regaining items do not replenish automatically is mitigated by the fact that after you take damage from an enemy, you have a certain amount of time to hit them back and extract the health back, which I think is great. In past Souls games, it favored a very, very defensive playstyle, where the enemy and whether or not they were going to show their weak point determined the pace of the battle. In this game, the pace of the battle is a lot more player-driven, because there's an incentive to keep attacking to get health back, and that makes the gameplay a lot more violent, and it really makes the player feel like they belong in this world more so than ever before, because the player very much feels like a monster. And in fact, you do fight other hunters in the game who follow the same controls and physics rules that you do, but you fight them as if they're bosses. So it creates this great feeling of really being a part of this world and being morally gray, which I think the Souls series that's always been at the core of the Souls series, having gray morality, and it's present in spades in this game. Another thing is that shields are largely gone. There is a shield you can get, but it's pretty much useless, because, as I said before, the game favors a much more offensive style this time around. You can see what I'm doing here. I'm switching my weapon between modes. Now, every weapon has at least two modes between them, where one mode will offer a certain type of attack style, another mode maybe slow, or the other one's fast, or etc., etc. And as opposed to a shield in the left hand, this time you have a gun. And you can see here, the gun is fantastic for interrupting enemy animations. If you get really good with the gun, you'll never really feel the need for a shield. I absolutely did not miss the shield in this game at all. I thought I was going to miss it, but as it went on, I started to love the gun. Another thing about this game that I feel is a massive improvement from previous Souls games is the inventory that you acquire as you play. Weapons this time are not always necessarily better than a weapon you've got before. Every weapon has a different strategy associated with it. In past games, your inventory would clutter up really quickly with lots of useless equipment that has been rendered completely obsolete by newer equipment. This time around, it feels like every weapon remains good for the entire game, if you know how to use them. Every weapon has a different strategy associated with it. And in addition to that, every weapon can be upgraded with blood gems that offer different effects, and weapons can also be upgraded in the classic style where you take a certain amount of material and you upgrade it to, you know, a saw cleaver +1, +2, etc., etc. So that about covers it for the new combat, and I love everything I just talked about. Another thing with this game is that I think I should perhaps count this as a negative, but I'm really not sure. In past Souls games, there was a lot more variety in environments. Do you see this place I'm in now? The entire world largely looks like this place. It offers the game a greater feeling of connectivity with its world. It really feels like you're exploring Yharnam as a whole, as opposed to exploring a little bit of Yharnam and then exploring vastly different areas that feel disconnected. So if you wanted to explore a large interconnected world where you backtrack through previously explored areas to rediscover things that you might have missed before, then you'll love this. If you were looking for a game that had a wide variety of areas, like a lava area or an ice area, then you might not like the environments that this game offers. I'm not sure whether this is a negative or a positive. It's a mixed bag. Now, the soundtrack is fantastic. I mean, very Soulsy again. Not super unique, but it gets the job done. I love the soundtrack that's coming up here in a bit. The boss fight coming up is Father Gascoigne. It's just a fantastic track, and I've listened to it many times outside of the game. Possibly my favorite track in the game. This isn't that much of a spoiler, this area, because it's at the very beginning of the game, and this might be the first boss you play, depending on where you go, so it's not a big deal to spoil this. Another system this game has is the insight system. In Souls, Dark Souls in particular, you had what was called humanity. This time you have insight, and it's represented by a little eye icon in your HUD underneath your health bar. What this does is it affects the way in which you perceive the world. You have a higher insight, the amount of things that you can glean from looking at the environment increases, so it might reveal secrets. Right here I have 1 insight on the right there. If you have a boss encounter, you may gain a little bit of insight by seeing the boss or discovering other things inside the game world. Now, insight can also be spent at a special store that takes insight, so you can actually lower your insight to perhaps decrease the difficulty of certain areas. I really love this system, and I like it a lot more than the humanity system in Dark Souls. That's another reason I put this game above Dark Souls 1 in my mind. In this game, you also don't have to stay dead all the time. You're actually kind of alive, which is good. I never liked the fact that you played mostly as a zombie in Dark Souls 1. This game also, as a whole, has less equipable items than I would have liked. In this game, it's more along the lines of equipping entire outfits than equipping particular pieces of items. And there's not many different unique sets of equipment to wear, but as the game progressed, I began to appreciate these differences more, and I saw them as a plus. So don't expect to be flipping around in your inventory as much this time around. The game also, if you go through it the first time without a guide and without trying to do everything, you're going to actually miss a lot of content. The first time I beat the game, I missed 4 or 5 bosses, and now that I've returned to the game, I have every intention of beating those bosses. Harkens back to an era of video games where the developers were trying hard not to let the player in on all of the content they had in store. It calls to mind Symphony of the Night. In Symphony of the Night, on the PlayStation 1, the Castlevania game, probably about 40% of the content you could unlock by doing something very special and otherwise not hinted to at all in the game. And I love that. I love when I don't have to see everything in one playthrough. I'm tired of games that concentrate everything into an 8-hour-long experience and offer no replayability. So this game does indeed have replayability. Oh, check this out. You're gonna love this. What other games did you get to do something like this in? Check this big-ass pig here. Yeah, watch this. Yeah, rip the asshole right out of that pig. You ever seen that before? I don't think so. This Game of the Year material right here. Yeah, here's another funny thing I discovered. The game actually is not very glitchy at all, but I did encounter this particular glitch. Oh! Yeah, I'm stuck. Guess that's it. Yep. It's just repeating that little sound, repeating his attack a million times. Yep. The game also looks a lot better in person running on hardware than it does in trailers. I found that a lot of the trailers for this game didn't really do the game justice. The game indeed does look really good, and it's probably the best looking Souls game yet. And the Souls games have been notorious for being ugly. Demon Souls 1 looks awful, but that doesn't mean I don't like it. This game is indeed the best looking of the bunch. But we get lucky here, because see, the game has a built-in countermeasure for if you get stuck like that, it just automatically kills you. Yeah. Not a very glorious death. Yeah, here's the university area. It's one of the areas you can get to in this game, where this just appears to be a university-type classroom, or a school of sorts. Man, I would have liked to have done this when I was in school. Oh, is this the teacher? Yeah, let's get my monocular out here. Have a look. Yep. This guy's a little bit bored. And here's one of the scariest things I've seen in this game. Look at this guy. You can just barely see his face from behind this window. And he gives you your classic, disturbing, Souls-esque dialogue. And it gets even scarier when you see what he looks like behind the door. I'm not going to spoil it, though. Speaking of Souls dialogue, here's some more interesting
about the gods
script.
and their love. But
One thing about this game is that it has easily my favorite lore of any Souls game, and the most consistent and understandable lore. It seems like with this game in particular, they really had a predefined backstory to go on this time. So much so that I really don't want to spoil any of the story. It's great. So yeah. Oh man. Doesn't get much freakier than this. I wouldn't go so close to that if I were you. Here's a really bored student. Here's someone who's a little bit bloated and should probably go to the doctor. Along with MGS5, this is one of the PS4 games I play with a lot of blood. You might not like this if you're afraid of spiders, so yeah. Do not praise the sun, praise the moon. Probably the best looking moon I've ever seen in a game. Check that out. Again, praise this moon too. Now the PS4 saves trophies, and it saves a screenshot of the trophy exactly when you get it. And if you look closely, you realize I got this trophy for beating a boss, and as soon as I got the trophy, I died. So this is a death screen that also includes a trophy. One more thing about this game is that you can play optional randomly generated dungeons called chalice dungeons, where if you offer a prerequisite series of items to a certain area in the hub world, it will allow you access to an area that exists outside the main game, in this case a chalice world or chalice dungeon. These dungeons offer a great distraction from the main game. It really does a good job to break up the Bloodborne experience as a whole. And it's something I feel has been lacking from the Soul series. I love just dropping into Bloodborne and playing some chalice dungeon. It's great. When you don't have time to experience the main game, you've got a chalice dungeon you can play. And there's lots of chalice dungeons to unlock, lots of enemies to fight in the chalice dungeons. It's fantastic. Chalice dungeons even have bosses, and you just might see one at the end of this video. Again, chalice dungeons can be generated entirely from items that you find within the main game. It is not paid, it is not a microtransaction vehicle, it all works seamlessly within the game world. You find a chalice and you find offerings to put in that chalice. You set it up in a certain area in the hub world, and it allows access to multi-layered chalice dungeons such as this. This guy seems to be guarding a switch of some sort. Perhaps this is what we need to open that door at the beginning. Ah. And here's the door that was unlocked. Boy, do you think there's a boss coming up? I wonder. Uh-oh. Yeah. Again, I'm going to make this look relatively easy, but I'm really intensely overleveled. Okay, so in conclusion, Bloodborne has many fun new mechanics that are going to be interesting to newcomers and veterans of the Souls series together. An amazing atmosphere. You're going to want to play this one with headphones, guys. You'll be amazed at what you can hear, see, and feel playing this game. Large world that rewards exploration. Be prepared to return to previously explored areas to find new things. What's bad about Bloodborne? It's not that much environmental variety. You're going to be exploring gothic, horror-esque cities a lot. It is a little bit easier than the past Souls games. Not sure if that's just me, but that's the perception I had playing it. I am a veteran though. Not much variety in character builds. Most character builds are going to end up the same.